friends, Beck the Feminist Lawyer here, and speaking of the GOP, let's talk about cults. Now, before you get too fired up, I'm pretty sure my comment section is going to fill up with the whole religion versus cult debate, and that's fine. Go ahead and discuss it. I'm pretty sure you're going to figure out that most religions are cults. And I can just hear the folks showing up going, oh, it's the same thing technically, but one of them has a negative connotation, one of them has a positive. I've heard it all before, okay? We ain't talking about that today. What I'm talking about is the Cult of MAGA. Special shout out to Andy Naselli out there who gave me this easy little breakdown of a cool book called The Challenge of Cults and New Religions, The Essential Guide to Their History, Their Doctrine, and Our Response. And this book is by Ron Rhodes, but the breakdown was by Andy Naselli. So again, usually when you're talking about cults, you're talking about religions. And in this case, we're not necessarily talking about a religion, and we're not talking about theology. What we're going to talk about is the sociological characteristics of cults and how this applies to MAGA. Kevin McCarthy got all up in the microphone talking about he was going to try to impeach Joe Biden for God knows what, so got me all fired up. So here we are, firing back. Characteristic number 1 of cults is authoritarian leadership. This usually centers around a central figure whose word is ultimate and final. Submission to the word of this central figure is mandatory, without question. Think about it. If anybody on the far right questions a damn sneeze that Donald Trump makes, they're called rhinos or traitors. Oh yeah, this is definitely qualifying. Just like Tolkien said, evil's gonna eat itself. The second characteristic is exclusivism. This is the idea that only they know the truth and everybody else has been fooled. You can't believe the mainstream media, they don't know nothing. This is Proud Boys, QAnon conspiracy theorists, science deniers, etc. All are fun little flavors of MAGA. The next characteristic is isolationism. This is an us versus them mentality, often including arming up or doing things like building walls. Or, and I think this is going to hit a lot of us in the feels, the willingness to sacrifice important relationships if they do not comply with the demands of the cult. How many of y'all out there have had to cut off family members because they've been drawn into this MAGA shit? It's becoming so common as to be mundane at this point. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, they're so far caught up in this MAGA cult and they're so isolationist about it that they are willing to alienate the most important people in their world to stand up for this centralized authoritarian leader. Number 4 is an opposition to independent thinking. This is the idea that education is corruption. So, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, you went off to school and got all these law degrees and then you were just corrupted by the universities. I went and got a bachelor's degree. I got a Juris Doctorate, and then I got an LLM. That's 2 law degrees. And I got more and more liberal as the education rolled in because I started to see the world for what it actually was and started to see the impact that these laws actually have. And I've been told that I was corrupted by my education. This is why we do things like ban books. This is why we do things like ban critical race theory, try to teach whitewashed history. This is why we oppose free college educations for children. This is why we oppose things like Bright Start, where kids can go to preschool and kindergarten for free. Teaching people how to think critically is bad, because if they think critically, they will see through all of the bullshit that you're trying to pull over on them. You can't make up your mind. Trump has to do that for you. Number 5 is part of isolationism, and that's a fear of expulsion. So there are a lot of folks out there that have gone so hard in the paint on the Trump train that if they jump ship now and they try to think independently and they realize how wrong that they've been and they actually stand up and speak for themselves and speak for the disenfranchised and the people that the MAGA folks have hurt, they will lose their social circles, and people will cut them off as part of the isolationist policy. So there are a lot of folks that think that they're going to get shunned by the folks around them if they dare to question what's going on. And then lastly is my favorite, because it's so easy to spot, is the threat of demonic attack. from the outside. Trump is going to save us all. I don't know how many dang memes and like weird ass pictures I've seen of Trump with like halos on him and shit, like how he's chosen by God to like save America. And I mean, it's freaking weird, y'all. The people who have said that he's the godliest man and that Jesus gave us Trump so he could save us all from the devil, and that we're all gonna burn in hell if we elect Democrats. And then let's talk about it not even in the religious sense. Let's talk about it in the personal sense. He's going to save us from the foreigners. He's going to save us from the immigrants. He's going to save us from the evil liberals and, those of us who eat babies to look young or whatever. I don't know. But it's demonizing anybody who might stand against you or might disagree with you, and constantly focusing on the outward threat, the enemy on the outside. Oh, save us from China. There's a big one. Oh gosh, anybody who's not Trump is just going to sell us out to China, and then China's going to own the United States. And there's your demon. We've turned China into the demon, or we've turned immigrants into the demon, or we've turned liberals into the demon, or feminists into the demon, or literal demons into the demon, literal Satan into, not that Satan is literal, Satan is not real, but that even any of that, they've literally put him on a pedestal like as a godlike figure. Now they're pretending that he's been sent by God to save America. So these are all merely sociological effects of a cult. We're not even talking about the theological effects, which I'm sure we could delve into in pretty great detail and show how crazed the MAGA movement has become. And the problem is the MAGA movement is not isolated. It is deeply embedded in the GOP. So you have even, I hate to call them reasonable Republicans, because at this point, if you call yourself a Republican, I don't think you're reasonable anymore. But there are people who are not MAGA Republicans, folks like Chris Christie, and, you've got, oh gosh, what's his name? Binders full of wind. Mitt Romney, that's it. These aren't MAGA Republicans, but, you've got Kevin McCarthy, who's, under a chokehold by, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Matt Gaetz, who are just like fascist right. And they're holding him by the you-know-whatsies. So he's threatening to impeach Biden for like stuff that his son did. That's not how it works, Speaker McCarthy. So the next time somebody from the MAGA right wants to call you a sheep, share this with them. You in a cult, boss. Time to break free. Join the land of the free thinkers. Stay safe out there, friends. Keep fighting the good fight.